Greetings to all in the love and light of the one infinite creator, and welcome to the Seattle Law of One podcast. According to the Law of One, pretty much everything in our third density existence, especially late third density, is about choosing between fear and love. And it would appear that the most important lessons that we all came here to learn are about how to choose love over fear. So how can we learn to choose love in a world that seems designed specifically to keep us in a perpetual state of fear? What fears keep us from growing or evolving spiritually? And how can love help us overcome them? Let's find out. My name is Jonathan Tong, and I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found in the list of study groups on the LNL Research webpage shown on your screen. We do also have a Facebook page, and we do meet twice a week on Zoom. Tuesdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time, Saturdays 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. You don't have to live in Seattle or anywhere near Seattle to join our Zoom sessions or our Facebook group. Anyone who is interested and available is welcome to. Just contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com to get our mailing list. We send out weekly updates once a week with Zoom links and information on what we're going to be doing that week. We do also have a YouTube channel where you can find recordings of previous podcasts, as well as recordings of Q&As with Jim McCarty, Austin Bridges, Gary Bean, and Tricia Bean from the LNL Research Channeling team. Again, you can contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com if you would like to join any of those Q&As. If you're watching this on your TV, each episode is divided into chapters, so you can skip ahead by chapters if you don't want to watch the whole thing from beginning to end. If you're watching this on your computer or your phone, below the title on the video, you should see a list of topics and timestamps. So again, you can skip ahead to topics as suits you. So, as mentioned today, the theme of our podcast is love over fear. Let's go ahead and meet our panelists. Panelists, can you introduce yourself to our viewers, name and where you're calling from, starting with Rinat?
Hello, everyone. My name is Rinat. I am calling from Israel, just north of Tel Aviv, actually, not Jerusalem. And I'm very glad to be here again.
We are so glad to have you here again. Ben, want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Leaf, and I am just north of Jonathan in Everett, Washington. And I am also quite glad to be here and talk on this concept. And hopefully I have something good to share.
Indeed. So glad to have you back. And Andy?
Hi everyone, I'm Andy. I'm calling from southwest Britain in Cornwall, and I'm looking forward to having this amazing discussion about love over fear.
Indeed.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here from such long distance as well. Did want to remind our viewers that none of us here are experts on the Law of One. We're just normal people like you, hanging out, sharing our thoughts and opinions on spiritual matters that seem important to us. Anything we say could be wrong. You're welcome to disagree with anything that any of us say at any time. If you are familiar already with the Law of One and the entities known as Ra and Quo, you might want to go ahead, skip ahead at this point to the chapter on catalyst and fear. If you're not familiar with any of those, then here are a few things that might help give you some context for everything else that we're talking about today. What is the Law of One? You could say that the Law of One is a set of spiritual teachings based on the understanding that all is one and that one thing is love. Pretty much everything you're going to hear us say and read today is some variation of that statement, that all is one and that one thing is love. Pretty much everything that we're reading today came to us through the process of channeling. You can think of channeling as a form of telepathic communication between humans and entities such as angelic beings, extraterrestrial beings, spirits of deceased, higher self, inner planes entities, etc. A channel serves as a mouthpiece for other entities to speak through, you could say. There are two types of channeling that have been done by our friends at L&L Research. Channeling, trance channeling is when the channel is in a trance state, subconscious or unconscious, as if asleep, really not aware of what is being said. That is how Carla Ruckert did the raw contact back in the early 1980s with the entity known as Ra. Conscious channeling is when the channel is in a conscious but a very deep meditative state, meaning that they're somewhat aware of what is being said, but have no idea what words are going to come out more than a few words at a time. This is how the Quo contact has been made. So who is Quo? You could say that Quo is a group entity made up of 3 social memory complexes, Ra at 6th density, Latwi at 5th density, and Hatan at 4th density. What is a social memory complex? You could think of it as a planetary consciousness. It would be as if the entire human population of Earth was merged into one group mind, and it is apparently our next step in human evolution. What is a density? You can think of densities as different levels of consciousness, different levels of reality. Imagine that the elements of water, air, fire, and earth actually have some primitive form of consciousness. Whatever that is, we call that first density. You could think of second density as the level of consciousness of plants and animals. Clearly a quantum leap of consciousness beyond that of elements, or what we would call inanimate matter. You can think of third density as the level of consciousness of humans and cetaceans like dolphins and whales. Again, a quantum leap in consciousness beyond that of plants and animals. Greater awareness of self, greater awareness of others. Fourth density is the level of consciousness where we get social memory complexes. Again, as you can imagine, a big quantum leap beyond the level of consciousness of an individual person. This is consciousness of an entire planetary consciousness like humanity. Fifth density would be whatever would be a comparable leap beyond that. And sixth density is whatever the fuck is a comparable leap in consciousness beyond fifth density. And it seems to go on and on beyond that. So again, you could say that Quo is a group entity made up of 3 planetary consciousnesses at 3 different densities, 6th, 5th, and 4th. The first contact with Quo was made by the L&L research channeling team in 1986, about 2 years after the end of the raw contact in 1984. And they have been channeled every month since then up to the present day by the L&L research channeling team. You can find transcripts of those sessions in the L&L Conscious Channeling Library. So let us go ahead and take a look at some passages, specifically on the subject of catalyst and fear. Catalyst is a term that's commonly used in the law of one. It just refers to incoming stimuli that trigger our experiences and responses. You could sort of think of it as sensory data, whatever comes into us that we respond to. So in a channeling session from March 1st, 1998, Quo said, "The only catalyst dealt with in third density is fear and love. The entity begins its babyhood wrapped in love, love known throughout its system, and it learns to close itself, to become apart, and to become defended because it seems fairly obvious that there are things to fear. There are entities and objects out there that can harm and hurt. So the spiritual life within third density may be described as either a learning how to love or learning how to release fear." There was another passage I wanted to read through. This was from September 26, 2006. Quo said, "Fear and love do not coexist any more than light and dark coexist. And just like light, love cannot be killed by fear. It shines even in the most hostile environment, just as does light. Even the light of a tiny candle creates a significant glow and illumination to the eye. The love within you is waiting for you to embrace it. It is something that you can do quite consciously. However, there is a significant amount of discipline involved in availing yourself of the catalyst that is incoming at this time and using it in a positive manner. When you sense fear within yourself, do not devolve into an inner atmosphere of self-doubt and upset. Look at that fear, intensify that fear, become fully aware of your fear, and then ask for its opposite. Allow yourself to become aware of love that flows all around you at all times, that love of the one infinite creator, which is without limit. Let that feeling of unconditional love lift you and help you to glow as if you are a lighthouse, carrying this wonderful pharos of love and light that express through you. Oops, sorry. Feel that glow and know that it is as real and as true about you as the fear that you are carrying. You are not attempting to destroy your fear. We encourage you rather to think of it as a balancing mechanism. The human condition will always include fear, but it can at the same time include an equal and balancing amount of love, so that you as a being are one of 360 degrees, the light and the dark, the difficult and the easy, the joyful and the sorrow. Sorry, the sorrowful and the joyful. So much to unpack in these two passages. And again, just wanted to remind the viewers that if you are new to the law of one, everything that we just read came through this process of channeling, so that the person who said these words and recorded, and these are not generated by AI. I've sat in on several of these sessions myself and heard this, witnessed this process myself. So it is legitimate. And yeah, the people who are saying these words, really, they might have an idea of what words are coming out one sentence at a time, but they have no idea what's coming after the sentence that they're saying. So it's just an amazing thing how profound the wisdom is here that we see in this channeling process. So yeah, did want to ask panelists for thoughts and reflections on this. For sure, the thing that strikes me most about this is, and that first part that I highlighted from the first passage, the only catalyst dealt with in third density is fear and love. I'm remembering that this was channeled in 1998. That was like about 27 years ago, 3 years before the 9/11 attacks. And things seem so much fearful that they would say that before the 9/11 attacks, the world seems already, the only catalyst was fear and love. The world seems a lot more fearful since 9/11, at least in the United States. And even in the last 10 years, it just seems like the polarization and tension and fear have only intensified. So it's amazing how resonant these are now. Renat, any thoughts, reflections on anything here?
Yeah, a few things come to mind. The first of them is that having been introduced to the law of one a couple of years ago and reading those things really clarified, simplified, having the love versus the fear simplify the structure of everything, of how the world, our world operates, how we operate. So the macro and the macro, it just brought it into sharp view, like no other spiritual practice I've done before. So that was like, oh yeah, like something but then you see it's like, oh yeah, that's simplified, instead of, because you can really trying to define what's what, you can get lost, and that it's so sharp. And the fact that it says that they cannot coexist, like, just puts the finger right on it. And then I was thinking that also fear and love, while fear, I think it's easy for us to define. I think love is trickier, maybe because of cultural conditioning. What is love? We think about the implementation of love, romantic love, love for family, love for friends, love for country, perhaps. But I think it's much more abstract, really. It's this total acceptance and embraciveness. If we think about it this way, I think it's easier to embrace the love, because, like, okay, I know what I'm afraid of, but what do I love? I think it's harder for the mind to, hook into that. So
For sure. And I would think you living in Jerusalem in particular during this ongoing war in the Middle East must be extremely familiar with the catalyst of fear and the challenge of choosing love over fear. I'm sure this is something we're going to talk about a lot more with you before this podcast is done. But did you have any thoughts, like specifically on the catalyst of fear that you experience on such a regular basis?
Yeah, and for the record, I'm closer to Tel Aviv than Jerusalem, which makes a huge difference. Jerusalem is much more intense in every way. I lived there in the 80s and it was intense. Well, during the Intifada, the first Intifada, I was there. And that was, yeah, I definitely dealt with fear. And I was young, so I didn't know what's what. But, I dealt with the PTSD years later when I lived in Boston, and I was afraid of people knifing me in the street. I'm like, no, Boston is fine. So yeah, you really carry that, and then you have to make a choice at some point. You know, it's really about the choice, and it's not one choice, bam, and that's it. It's the daily choice. It's like, as I told you guys today, we had two sirens. In the morning, there was a barrage, and not far, houses were damaged, people were hurt. Sorry, that should be in the reverse order. People were hurt, and property was damaged. And the boom's like, you feel it's right above you. It's like a super thunder. It's coming to get you. And I don't have easy access to a bomb shelter. It's a bit complicated. Anyways, I decided that I define my safety, that I create this dome of safety around me. So I just found a spot in my house that if something happens, the glass wouldn't shatter me to shred me to pieces. Like, okay, I want to do something in the physical world, but I'm not going to give in and panic and run somewhere and, fall down the stairs and break my head. That's because, so it's really a choice. It's really a choice. And it's a choice you have to make in any circumstance. There's always fear. You're afraid of your boss, your neighbor, your mother. I don't know. There's always yeah. I
That is
like.
part of third density for sure, for everybody, as indicated here. But especially for you in your situation, I think. And yes, if we hear the sirens again, then we might lose Renat for a little bit today. We'll see
I'll come
what
back.
happens.
I'll
Yes.
come back. I don't want to go into it, but maybe you guys have thoughts about the contraction of. It's like I thought it's like a muscle. I can't see it here, but it's
Right.
like to contract and release. Like to
Right.
let the fear in and then release it. That I thought it was interesting. I don't know what to think about it, but if you have any thoughts, that would be fascinating. Maybe I can use it for the next siren.
Yeah, well, I believe there is something about contraction coming up in one of our passages fairly soon. Till then, Ben, did you have any thoughts, reflections on anything from either of these passages or
Sure,
anything?
always. So Renat, everything you spoke on is very, very true, and I resonate with it strongly. And I send you my light and send my light to everyone around you, and enduring the strife that's going on in that part of the world that seems to always attract the attention of everyone's passions and focus and rage. So this is what it's all about. Love and fear. This is why we're here on this planet and in this density right now. So, of course, there's plenty of catalysts to be had regarding this, and it's a fantastic opportunity for growth. Fear is a fantastic opportunity for growth, and so what I was drawn to was the idea that it's like fear is darkness and light is the light, and the fear. I feel like when fear is kind of misunderstood in that it's a response to a lack of information, a lack of knowledge, and a lack of confidence in that situation. So when we don't have that understanding, there's that sense of unknown, and I think that you can kind of just the presentation of something unknown in your life gives you the opportunity to decide, like, is this something I need to be cautious about or fearful about even? And I think when you start to carry those thoughts with you, it immediately pulls you out of the present moment and pulls you away from the ability to be open-hearted and to let your love and light come out. So I think it's always a balancing act, and it's really simple when you think about it. And if we, you know, if we carry a sense of love and purpose, and that I want to, you know, be the best little third density being I can be, you have to have that heart openness, and always be aware of when, at least for me, when my heart is being constricted, and usually it's because of something I'm stressing about or worried about. For example, I was I was asked to be on this panel kind of at the last moment, and you know, it was a choice right there. It was I had a choice to you know, to tell Jonathan, you know what, I really don't want to do this. I don't feel prepared. I'm nervous about being on screen or whatever, on camera. But you know, that's a fearful choice, and that's me projecting. So it was a choice right there. I had a choice of service, and the choice of love and service is to obviously contribute my thoughts and energy to this panel, and go from there. So this is me choosing love to come on this panel and talk about this with all you pleasant people out in the world and internet, and also you three here. So
It's a
yeah,
great example,
it's
and we
always about
appreciate that choice.
of course, it's always about life is always about choices, and choosing love over fear, and you know, choosing the heart open way, or the heart closed off way, where I could have literally said no and closed myself off to this opportunity, which is fine. You know, it's also a choice and it's valid, but I always tries to choose the path of love and path of service. So yeah, that's what I have for that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I wasn't picking up quite so much on the balancing part. The balancing exercise that we've heard so much about from Ra and from Quo is not something that I find, for whatever reason, works for me in particular. But yeah, the part where you're talking about exaggerating and blowing up the fear as far as it'll go, and then balancing it with the opposite of love, I imagine that could be helpful for others for sure. Andy, did you have any thoughts, reflections on anything?
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, Ben, I was really nervous too, and I still am. And but then I'm an adrenaline junkie, so I'm really drawn to fearful situations because of the freedom and joy that comes when you overcome that fear. You know, it's so liberating, and it's so there's so much love in it, and it's kind of like when you're, you know, pulling on an elastic band. The further you pull it, the quicker and faster it springs back together. Or, you know, pulling on the bow with the arrow, the further you pull it back, the more forceful and the further it goes when you release it. And I see the balancing exercise that way. And it's such a simple choice, fear versus love, because you've only got two options. But then we're born into this density where we're taught to fear, we're conditioned to fear. We teach our children, despite what we know, to fear. It's like, well, be careful crossing the road, be careful talking to strangers, because we believe that the fear will, to some extent, keep them safe. But then there's lots of different kinds of fear, and every time you overcome one fear, a different fear comes disguised as like comfort, as security, and they can be really hard to recognize. And I also think it's a bit of a challenge. Like if I think about the 80s, where we had the threat of nuclear war, and in a way everyone was fearful, but we had the expectation that the world would end soon anyway. So there's a bit of recklessness in the 80s that isn't present now, because the fears are a bit more realistic, I suppose. And so yeah, I think fear is actually an invitation. That's how I see it. It's like a party invitation. Come to this party of fear, and when you actually get to the party, it's an invitation to have faith and joy and love.
It's a beautiful way to think of it, beautiful way to express it. Yeah. Any other thoughts, anybody, on anything here? I did actually want to look at fear in our energy centers, since we've talked about how contraction can kind of restrict the flow of energy through our energy centers. Before we look at that, did anybody else have anything here that they wanted to talk about? There is so much here that we could talk about. We could spend the next 2 hours just talking about these two passages, but we've got much more. Why don't we go ahead and let's take a look at fear and energy centers. On October 21st, 2001, Quo said, "If you think for a moment of your energy body, you may see that each center of energy within your body is vulnerable to distortion in a particular way, and we use that term distortion to indicate fear. For fear is a very common distortion of love. Within the red ray, the energy tends to be blocked if there is a fear of survival. Within the orange ray in the lower belly, the natural distortion of that energy comes with the experience of attempting to relate to other energy fields, to other people. When there is a difficulty and there seems to be a threat from a personal relationship, the lower belly energy can be blocked or otherwise uncomfortably distorted. In the upper part of the belly, in the solar plexus, the yellow ray energy center can easily be blocked by fears having to do with the family, the society, one's place within that family or society. In short, one's dealings with the larger groups that go beyond personal relationships and move into the roots of being, the family, the mated relationship, and so forth. And a great deal of that which many are experiencing during this particular autumn season among your peoples has to do with the energies that became manifest on the 11th of September of this year. These are basically yellow ray fears, and the solar plexus of many, many entities within your culture has been punched, shall we say, hard, and given the opportunity to choose fear, not just once, but many times. Yes, I probably should have noted that this passage was from, again, October 21st, 2001, only about a month and a half after the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center in New York City. And I forgot, I was actually going to do a review of chakras and energy centers before we did this. For anyone who is not familiar with this, energy centers in the Law of One are very similar, not necessarily the same, but very similar to chakras as taught in the Hindu traditions, where the red ray or root chakra is really associated with survival, sexual reproduction, fundamental vitality. It receives intelligent energy from the earth and flows upward through the rest of the energy centers. Going next to the orange ray or the sacral chakra, this is associated with personal identity, relationships of self to other individuals, whereas the yellow ray or solar plexus chakra relates to our identity in groups, relationships with groups of others, as they mentioned in that passage. The green ray or the heart chakra is associated with universal unconditional love, and it's the springboard to higher chakras and intelligent infinity. There will be more discussion on that in a future episode on chakras and energy centers, but for now we will just let it go at that. So yeah, I think probably a big lesson in here is looking at how energy is supposed to flow through our energy body, through red ray, orange ray, yellow ray, green ray, and so on to green ray, blue, indigo, and violet. But when we feel fear, it really contracts those energy centers and blocks the flow of energy like water trying to get through a garden hose. So if you're feeling fear of survival, then that's right there at the very beginning at red ray, which kind of blocks the flow of energy to everything beyond that. Whereas if you're feeling fear with an individual, other person, that's a blockage of orange ray. If you're feeling fear from other entities, other groups in society, that would be yellow ray blockage. All of which I would think are pretty clear and obvious to many people watching this. Ben, did you have any thoughts, reflections on anything from here?
Yeah, just kind of the basic the physical beingness of this, I think, is really interesting and something to think about, and something that, at least for me as a Westerner, it's something we're not often aware of, even of what's going on physically in our bodies in response to a stimulus like stress or fear. And you know, for a few years, I worked in a chiropractic office, and I did billing and insurance. And one of the main things that all of our patients had across the board was stress and anxiety. Every single person who was in that office, they would always list stress and anxiety as one of their main issues. And you know, the stress and anxiety is fear manifest in the body. And if you have some kind of situation going on where you're experiencing this ongoing stress of, you know, whatever it is, whatever you're not dealing with, or whatever is continuing to go on, like the stress of a terrorist attack, for example, speaking of 9/11, it's if that energy stays in the body, it will eventually creates disease. And so people have to deal with their stuff, deal with your fears, and then you can start clearing those blockages, and then you can allow the energy of existence, of the divine flow of love and light to go through your physical vehicle, as Ra would say. So I think one way for me is that, especially when I feel stress, I feel like I feel frozen and stuck. Like I don't want to move. I want to stay in the same place. I want to kind of like put a shell around myself and go inside, you know. But so one of the ways I combat that for myself is I move. If I'm feeling stressed, I know that I have to get moving and go outside, go for a walk. And so I think it's funny that you know, the red ray and the yellow ray, they're at the very bottom of our existence, of the human physical vehicle pyramid. And if those are blocked, then you're going to be crippled and limited in your experience of the rest of the energy centers and the existence in general. So it's important to deal with these things. And sometimes all you have to do is go for a walk and ground yourself into the earth, and you can even literally physically feel like the energy going down through your feet into the ground. And I swear it's the divine relationship that we don't even talk about, but it's the physical touch of each step, and moving the body is like a release of this constriction that I feel in my gut. So that's where my mind went, thinking about the physical feeling of stress and anxiety in my lower energy centers. So just a thought that I was having, and
Yeah.
interesting thing to ponder. So yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing up stress. I don't think that's a word that I had even thought of in preparing this episode today. But yeah, I think I would assume everyone watching this has a high amount of stress in their lives. And that stress really is, yeah, very much another manifestation of fear in the body, as he said. And especially here in the States, I mean, with the intense increased tension and polarization between political groups that we've been seeing, I would think that's causing a lot of people stress on both sides. So exercise, going out in nature, like you're saying, I think is excellent spiritual advice. Andy, any thoughts, reflections, anything to add?
Yeah, just two things. One is the Vipassana meditation practices, and you know, any kind of body scanning work can really help us to open up these energy centers. And another thing is there's been more and more research on the vagus nerve. I don't know if you're familiar with that, and how it, you know, stress in the brain can actually cause problems with the digestive systems and the yellow or orange energy centers. And it might be worth looking into that if you need that kind of backup, because it does really help to look after that aspect and become aware of it in terms of dealing with your stresses and fears. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's all.
Yeah, thank you so much. Renat, anything to add?
Yeah, but before we, I just wanted to extend an invitation to the best party of fear in town, Andy, if you're looking for any adrenaline party. You're welcome. In return to your kind invitation. Yeah, I really, I'm gonna look into that nerve, Andy. That's interesting. But I just thought as we spoke that it's kind of a paradox that we are in third density. This is the density of the physical. Yet we don't, in the Western world, we don't pay attention to our bodies. We just go on and on and on. We push our bodies to the limit until it breaks. You know, we get sick or we suffer back pain or other pains. So this is really, the body is speaking to us. It's like a child. And if you have a child at home and the child needs your attention and you're not paying attention to the child, just going to escalate and become worse. And neither of you is going to be happy, neither you nor your child, neither you nor your body. What I've done to build on what Ben said, I take daily walks, and it just releases everything. Not just now in war, but for years now, I walk for 30 minutes, an hour, and it really changes the brain. But also, I became a tree hugger, and I found a huge eucalyptus here. It's probably 100 and 150 years old. Man, it talks to me like it's a human. It's so big that its roots are kind of mountainous. You have to climb. So I found a place to climb, and there was a bump that I hold on to, and then I just listen. And it always tells me when I'm in stress, always tells me, first of all, I feel the negative energies just draining. And then it always, I don't know, something is speaking through this tree to me. I don't know if it's a higher entity or it's my inner voice or something. It's always short messages, but it's like, oh yeah, bingo. And recently, it started growing shoots right where I stand, kind of growing shoots like towards me. And I said, hey, taking my space. So I moved the shoots. So now the shoots are growing this way, but I feel like it grew another little arm to say hello to me. It was very, I think this tree is going to be a human in the next life, and maybe we'll meet again. So that's another, find the fattest tree you can, the biggest, because they have wisdom. And if you can take your shoes off, it's even better to ground to and listen, just listen to the tree. And 5-10 minutes, it's all it takes. You don't have to marry the tree. So that's my 2 cents.
So beautiful. Thank you. And a great reminder that in many Native American traditions, many shamanic traditions around the world, trees are understood to have a consciousness. And there are entities, I believe, who have been able to communicate with trees as well as with rocks, as well as with fire. Everything is sacred. Yeah, I appreciate the barefoot in the earth. That is definitely something that has helped me as well. Anybody have any thoughts on this? Anything else they wanted to share before we take a look at how to transform fear into love?
I just wanted to second that hugging trees is awesome. And my wife and I do the same thing. We have a maple tree that's on the other side of the parking lot here that we often commune with. And there's always a steady, like, reassuredness. If you want to know how to ground yourself, just hug a tree, because it's like it's always grounded, and it's great. It's a great way to kind of reconnect with the earth, and being barefoot. So I strongly second everything that Renat said.
Well said. Yeah, so many indigenous peoples around the world have felt that close connection with trees. Druids would be one of the first that come to mind. Well, thank you for everyone for sharing your thoughts and reflections on that. I would like to take a look at how to transform fear into love. And I had 3 passages that I wanted to look at together. The first 2 are from Quo, and the first one was from August 9th, 2002. Quo said, "Remember that each is in truth love itself. Love does not contract. Love does not fear. Love dries out fear. If the entity is at heart a being of love, and if an entity is able to experience the self as a being of love, this is a tremendously important step towards becoming more skillful in the process of experiencing the self as a person of power, peace, bliss, and magical effectiveness. That which is perceived as the truth will become the truth. Thusly, be extremely choosy about that which is accepted as the truth. And on January 5th, 2003, Quo said, "Fear is the dark side of love. Fear has its legitimacy and must indeed be embraced within the self and asked to avail its gifts to the use of the light. Fear becomes courage when the fear is faced, and the wolf that has caused the fear, rather than being fled or being slain, is invited into the heart to be loved, understood, accepted, and charmed." Those references to experiencing the self as magical and this charming of the fear reminded me of one of the archetypes from the Egyptian tarot that I wanted to share with you. For those of our viewers who are not familiar with this, this passage is from the Raw Contact session 81, question 12. And this is in reference to one of the archetypes of the archetypical mind. The archetypical mind can be thought of as the blueprint for spiritual evolution and what we call our reality. You could think of the archetypical mind as like the software, the programming for the video game that is our third density existence. Nobody needs to understand how the archetypical mind works for their spiritual journey any more than anyone needs to understand how the programming for a video game works to play the video game. But if you understand how the programming works, it can certainly help you progress faster. So we did have an episode on the archetypical mind a little while ago. If you're interested, I would encourage you to go back and check it out on our YouTube channel. Otherwise, this reference they made to the wolf that has caused the fear, rather than being fled or being slain, is invited into the heart to be loved, understood, accepted, and charmed. Sure reminds me of this image that we see here of the enchantress, as she is called, and the lion. And here the questioner says, the 11th archetype, the experience of the body, represents the catalyst that has been processed by the mind-body-spirit complex, that's what they call people, and is called the enchantress because it produces further seed for growth. Is this correct? Ra says, I am Ra. This is correct. Not a real chatty guy, that Ra. And I believe this is the only reference anywhere in any of the Ra contact or the quote contact to the experience of the body. This is the one and only passage that turns up when I've done a word search for experience of the body. And again, I only bring it up because it seems to relate really well to here. Just love the idea that each of us is magical, inherently magical, because everything in the universe is made of love, including us. And love is indeed the most powerful magic in the universe that there is. So being able to transform your fears into love, not by fighting the fear or destroying your fear, but by embracing it with love and shining light into it, just seems like a really powerful teaching to me. Andy, I know you're big on archetypical mind. Any thoughts on anything here?
Yeah, I think when fear comes, I now welcome it because I see it as an opportunity to heal an aspect of myself that I hadn't seen before. And I'm like, yeah, bring it on. I just want to work out what's happening here, or just infuse it with the love that it needs and reassure it. And what I found by doing that is that often it's not even mine, it's something that I've inherited or been gifted by my conditioning, and that can be really powerful. And it also made me realize that actually the love that is within us is so much more powerful than anything that we're fearful of out there. We're eternal beings, and connecting with that love brings such a deep awareness of that infinitude and that eternalness, that nothing becomes worthy of fear anymore. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does.
it comes with meditation. Yeah.
For sure. And meditation, I think, was something we were going to be looking at fairly soon as well. Appreciate your bringing that up. Renat, any thoughts, reflections on anything here?
Yeah, I have a few things. I wanted to respond to Andy, who said she realizes the fear is not hers, but whose is it? If it's you took it from your mother took it from her mother, and so on and so forth. It's kind of like this parcel we give to each other, but once it lands in our lap, it's ours to deal with. An opportunity, a curse, however you call it. It's ours, I think. That's how I see. It's like, I didn't accept any little scratch I saw in my family. I accepted, inherited, imitated certain ones that I guess go with my programming. I don't know. And the other thing is, I at first I misunderstood the card, but then like, okay, she's not. I thought of a different game. I thought of, we spoke about the dangers of the physical, of our physical body, that is holding on to fear, stress, etc. But also there's the bigger danger of being controlled. I thought she's controlling him, not taming him. So, it's when we are in fear, and I see it here in Israel, right now, and I saw, in history, it's all over. You put people in fear, and then you make them do horrible things. You make them believe horrible things, and so on and so forth. What are wars based on? So this is the danger. So, being aware of it, being aware of the choice, hang on, I don't have to believe everything. I don't have to believe that I have to hate the enemy in order to survive, or all those, if we just empower ourselves to think, where are things coming from, and who's benefiting from our fear other than the chiropractor?
Or acupuncturist or drug dealer or whoever. Well, so that does bring up a question that I had for you, Renat, in terms of how we transform fear into love. You mentioned, for example, the air raid sirens, which I would imagine would be a huge catalyst for fear for anyone who's ever heard anything like a air raid siren. And I'm sure you've heard them many, many times by now. But when you hear them, do they still trigger the fear response in you? And if so, how are you able to transmute that into love, or at least somehow not be afraid?
Yeah.
If that's possible.
Well, I think, yeah, I'm not afraid. I'm pissed. I'm pissed. Yeah, I was 8 when I was first introduced to the air raid sirens. I remember that very vividly. I had no idea what it was. We were so naive. We didn't know anything. There was no social media. The fact that all the fathers disappeared, just like, oh, well, we're so naive. And I would go down with my sister, would go down with armful of books to the bomb shelter. And I was mostly worried I'll run out of reading material before we can go home again. So that was my first introduction to war. It took me years to figure out what actually happened, and that my father was actually in danger. And so, yeah, that was a funny way to discover what's what. But
So how about now?
now that
How do you deal with it now as an adult?
Yeah, now that I'm here, so as I said, I don't make the extra effort to go into a proper bomb shelter, and it's, you know, it's kind of silly that I don't. But I when you first hear it, like sometimes you hear it and like, oh, it's in the next town over? Is it because it can be there and not come here? It's like, okay, but I'm like, wait, if it's there, somebody over there is getting hurt. So I really feel the unity of it doesn't matter where it is. We're all one. So when I hear it, the first thing, you know, I'm like, oh, again, it's so invasive, this sound when it's in your ear. It's so invasive. The animal in you, you know, you can't help it. The animal in you jumps, just like, you know. But then, you know, split moment, and I'm like, no, I don't have to be afraid. I just, you know, I go to my walk-in closet, which I declared a safe space. And I just hide there and I look at the news, what, you know, what. And then I just, from the heart chakra, I lift this dome of protection above myself, above the whole area. Just imagine it's, you know, so I sit there for my 10-15 minutes, listening to the booms, you know, those thunderous sounds. And I'm like, yeah, it's happening. And last week, I started thinking, it's not my war, it's their war. And it's not that I'm not here, I'm not taking responsibility, but who is causing war? It's not Ra, it's not Quo, it's not our people. You know, it's the negative entities that feed on fear and hate and violence. They eat it up. You know, it's delicious food for them. It's their war. Like, I'm not, you know, it's kind of like, you know, the bullies are trying to play a game with you, and like, no, guys, I'm not playing, not doing this dance. I'll hide
Good for
in
you.
my little I'll hide in my little corner. I'll check the news to see, you know, who's, you know, if anybody got hurt. I lift my dome and F you. That's how I really see it, as their war. And I'm not giving in. So
That's a really beautiful, plucky way to look at it, I would say, and realizing that we're all being played. We're all being played against each other by these fifth density entities who feed on vibrations of fear and bellicosity. Once you realize that you're being played, then maybe it's a little bit easier to say, yeah, I'm not going to play that game. But it's a beautiful sharing and beautiful teaching that I think all of us can benefit from. So I thank you for sharing that. Ben, did you have anything? Yeah,
I actually want to add something. If anybody's watching it and they are in an area of war, I'm not recommending not going to a proper bomb shelter. You don't have to follow this. Those are not instructions. That's just my, you know, at this age, having gone through war, I'm exhausted. I'm not playing this. But please, everybody, you know, that is in a war zone, protect yourself. Go to a bomb shelter, do whatever you can, take your kids, your animals, your laptops. Yes, please don't, yeah, it's just my thing.
And bring a good thick book to read. Yeah. Thank you for the clarification on that. Ben, anything to add?
Yeah, a couple things. First off, Renat, I also like how you kind of took your energy and removed it, saying, you know, this war, this situation is not me. This is not what my life. So it's a real great strategy to not get pulled down into the, because if you wanted, we could all, you know, be on the ground in the fetal position crying about our lack of control of the situation, but no, that, because what is that? How's that going to serve you, and how's that going to help the people around you in your life? You know, you choose not to take on the energy, and you know, but at the same time, you're doing what you can to be pragmatic and take care of yourself. And Jonathan, if you could scroll to show the card again, one thing that I was thinking about, so I love this picture because it's so simple, but because this woman is, it appears that she has command of the lion, but we all know that that's still a lion, you know? So I think the card represents the awareness that our physical beingness is limited, and we're, you know, the balance between life and death, between existence in this 3D physicality and not, and being unmanifested and not physical anymore is you know, it's just a matter of the heart stopping, and then we're no longer experiencing third density anymore. So I think it shows even though she has her hands on its head and its chin, it's like saying that I'm confident in this situation and I'm aware of it, but also it's still an awareness that this could end at any moment, and that and it's an acknowledgement of that too, and that we exist in this third density, knowing that we don't know, you know, knowing that we're behind the veil, and also knowing that things can change in an instant. So I think it's a sign of acceptance of the situation, and also a sign of the precariousness of the situation too, because it's still a lion, and there's still a sense of unpredictability or unpredictableness to it as well. So just a little thought.
Yeah, I appreciate your sharing that, and that all makes perfect sense to me. I guess it's worth noting that the woman seems to be taming the lion, seems to be befriending the lion. She certainly doesn't have a sword and isn't trying to kill the lion or anything like that. Which kind of reminds me of the passage above where they said, fear becomes courage when the fear is faced, and the wolf that has caused the fear, rather than being fled or being slain, is invited into the heart to be loved, understood, accepted, and charmed. It reminds me that so many times from day one, we're trained to use violence or bellicosity or fighting as the solution to our problems, rather than embracing with love. And you know me, I'm always a sucker for a pop culture reference. So when I see that passage, I remember Star Wars. I think it was the second movie, The Empire Strikes Back, where Luke has to confront that which he is most afraid of, which is Darth Vader. So I think he's on Yoda's planet or something like that, and he goes into some dark cave or something like that, and he sees Darth Vader there, and he of course takes out his lightsaber and cuts his head off, and then after that takes the mask off and sees that Darth Vader is himself. Which I guess was obviously great for that movie, but that's not the message that we're being taught here. Rather than trying to destroy the thing that you're afraid of, Luke should have gone and given Vader a big old hug and surrounded him with love and embraced him as a other self. That would have been a great movie, I'm sure. Probably one we'll never see, but yeah, anyway. Anybody have any other thoughts on this before we take a look at protection from things?
I would just add one thing.
Yeah.
The distortion is that the wolf and the lion and the woman are all the same being. We've just temporarily forgotten. And so I think the underlying element of all of this is that we're playing this illusion in third density, but the truth is that all is well all the time. And it's easy to forget that. And I think that's essentially what fear is we forget that all is well, and that all will be well. So.
And that all is one. Yeah.
Yes.
And that one thing is love. Well said. Thank you, Ben. Anybody else have anything they wanted to add before we move on?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to recommend the film, the Pixar film Monsters Inc., because it's got this huge, enormous, scary-looking monster, and it's like the most amazing, charming, lovely, cuddly thing ever. But I think we can get a lot out of that film, actually.
Yeah, what a great other example. I think movies are in many ways our modern day mythology. They're the stories that we share with each other and share with our children that helps us learn what we consider to be important messages in between all the killing and violence and destruction and all that stuff. Let's take a look at protection from things that we are afraid of. I've got a passage here from 1986. This is May 18th. This is from an entity known as Lilima. Lilima is a Confederation entity that appeared quite a few times in the mid-80s, but apparently not after. I did a search in the channeling archives, and it seems like all of the transcripts with Lilima happened roughly in the mid-80s and don't seem to have seen much after that. And I don't think I've seen any confirmation of this from anywhere else. This is just my personal feeling, but I get the feeling that Lilima is a feminine social memory complex. There's something to me that strikes me as a feminine vibe here, and maybe somebody who knows better can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But anyway, here Lilima said, "I am Lilima, and we would remind you, my sister, that the polarity of service to others is one which contains a great deal of protection. The fruit of service to others is that which is guarded by the light of those who observe the movements within your illusion from outside of your illusion. Within this general area of protection, shall we say, the one who seeks to be of service to others may invoke this light at any time the need is felt. At all times, it is recommended that for the greatest protection, the one who seeks to serve others may attempt with a full and joyous heart to see the Creator in all things and events which come before its notice, to seek the light, to praise it, and to rejoice in the opportunity to be of service. In this frame of being and attitude of seeking to serve, one bathes oneself in the armor of light, that which is, and that which is not, the darkness, then becomes illumined and becomes as that which is light. Thus the light speaks to itself and knows no fear or foe, for all is seen as one. The truth is known as the light is called." I think I realized why I was thinking this is female. I think I was remembering, this is another pop culture reference, The Lord of the Rings. I believe it was, whichever one it was, the first one where the elf queen Galadriel gives Frodo the light to take into the darkness, to help him, to give him protection when it is most darkest. I think I was getting echoes of that here, so for what that's worth. No, I just love the idea that you have protection. Those on the service to others path always have protection in the light, but you have to invoke it. They will not come without being called, without being asked, unlike those entities on the service to self path, which do not wait to be called. Your guardians of light are there for you. Just have to ask for them. Any thoughts, reflections on this passage, Renat?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I do, this armor of light. Armor is war related, so I'm having trouble. Dome of light. Yeah, I want to share an amazing story from October 7th here in the South during the terror attack. A woman who is in, I don't know her, but she's connected, she's part of a spiritual group. And while this was happening and her house was, the terrorists came, were in her kibbutz or village, I can't remember, and she was holding on to the door of the shelter. And she just told her a bunch of friends who are spiritual, but people like us, she just said, what's the situation, and send me protection. And a bunch of them just didn't ask questions, didn't say anything. They just didn't write anything. They just sat there and sent her protection. And the terrorists came by her house, she said, and they didn't enter. She felt she was, and she was doing it for herself as well. She felt that she was protected with this armor of light, and and she was in there with her kids. So this was like, oh my God, this is one of the most extreme examples of protection I've heard of. So yeah, it can be real, and we have to believe. We're so conditioned to believe only what we gather with our five senses, but the sixth sense, the one that we cannot assess with anything, scientific, is as strong, if not stronger, you know. I mean, she would have had, even if she had a tank, she would have had a you know, a worse time protecting herself and her kids than this armor of light sent by her, you know, bunch of friends. And that's what she did. She just imagined this protection. So it's real. We have to believe it. And you know,
It's a good reminder of the veil of forgetting, and the whole point of third density was to see if you can still choose love over fear, even when you don't realize all those things that you pointed out that we would know if it was not for this thing that's called the veil of forgetting, that makes us forget that all is one, and that one thing is love, and that we're surrounded by angelic beings, and so on. I didn't mean to cut you off. I think I was just felt like the need to say that. Did you still have thoughts that you wanted to share, Renat?
yeah, I thought too, probably people who watch this episode think I'm half crazy, which, you know, might be not completely wrong. But you know, if people are thinking, okay, well, we're not in war, we don't have a terrorist outside our doors, thankfully, what can we do? Then try to experiment with small things, you know, to use this light for really small things. Ask something you want. Imagine there's a guardian angel right above you. Ask something you want, something small. Start experimenting. You know, see what happens. It's delightful when you discover this. Oh, it actually something happened. Oh, it was a coincidence. Oh, another coincidence, and then there's a bunch of coincidences, and you start connecting the dots, and now you have the armor of light right in your hand.
Well said. Well said. Ben, anything to add?
I would just this is something that I also forget to do, is that you have to remember that we do live in a magical universe, and it's only as real as you believe, you know. And what a great story about that woman who reached out and said, you know, send me some light, reaching out to other seekers and other believers, you know, because they believe that the energy they're sending is also real. And so I swear there's a magical aspect here that exists, and we live in this magical universe. And people who are stuck in fear and are unconscious, they don't even think about it, because they automatically habitually go to the scary thoughts, and like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die, and, you know, low vibration and panic. And that's not how you navigate. There's better ways to navigate through situations like this in life. And it's always good to remember to just call on your guides, call on the powers that be. They're all around all the time. If you think about everyone who's lived and died on this earth, the majority of them are on the other side, and are watching the show right now. So you know, we're the lucky ones who get to be down here in this chaos and on the other side of the veil, where we don't have all the answers. And,
Lucky. Yeah.
right. So it's just a good thing to keep in mind, and it's good that we can laugh about this stuff too, because in the end, it is a kind of a grand play that we're playing out down here on Earth, and as we try to navigate this planet to the lighter path.
Well said, indeed. Andy, anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think Renat perfectly embodies this passage, you know. When you were reading it, I'm immediately reminded of you, Renat, like in your makeshift bomb shelter, which is basically your walk-in closet, visualizing a dome and saying, right, I'm all right, and then immediately getting pissed off that, hang on, someone else is not all right, you know. And it's all about love for your other self, and like, and this passage perfectly describes what you're doing. And yeah, and I just want to say, just come back to England. But actually, you're right, like, you know, you're being called, and you're honoring what is needed of you, I think. And thank you very much.
Indeed.
Thank you for saying it, Andy. It's very cute. I might take you on coming to Cornwall. I lived in Devon for 4 years, and I didn't cross the line to Cornwall because I was, yeah. So I might do it now. Never too late. Thank you.
Yeah, please do.
Party
But
at
the
Andy's.
weapon's better.
All law of
Yeah.
one seekers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool. Ah, that's beautiful. Thank you. I had another passage that I wanted to share on the subject of protection, and this would be another reference to the archetypical mind. This is from session 95, questions 23 and 24. This is related to the experience of the mind, or archetype number 4, aka the emperor. In question 23, Ross said, and I'm sorry, this is referring to the cat. If you look at the image on your screen, the emperor seems to be sitting on a large black box or something that seems to have a cat inside it. And Dawn was asking about this cat, and Ra responded by saying, the great cat guards in direct proportion to the purity of the manifestations of intention and the purity of inner work done along this path. And then in question 24, Ross said, the seeker which has purely chosen the service to others path shall certainly not have a variant apparent incarnational experience. There is no outward shelter in your illusion from the gusts, flurries, and blizzards of quick and cruel catalyst. However, to the pure, all that is encountered speaks of the love and the light of the one infinite creator. The cruelest blow is seen with an ambience of challenges offered and opportunities to come. Thusly, the great pitch of light is held high above such an one, so that all interpretation may be seen to be protected by light. What a beautiful passage. And again, to see that this protection is actually wired into the archetypical mind, the software, the blueprint for the reality as we experience it in this part of the universe, at least the part that is governed by what we call our sun. I'm really struck by that, and that, well, it's just really cool to know. I would think it's just really reassuring to know that protection for those on the service to others path is wired into our reality here. And they say, as they mentioned, the protection is in direct proportion to the purity of intent and of the inner work that's done on that path. So it would be a reminder to all that there is a purpose to life as we know it in third density, and then that is to know that there is a choice to be made to choose to be of service to others, meaning caring about others at least as much as you care about yourself, seeing the creator in others as well as yourself, or the service to self path, which means caring only about yourself and not really caring about the needs of others more than 5% of the time, say, and seeing the creator in yourself, but not seeing the creator in anyone else. Those are, according to the law of one, both valid paths. And the whole point of your being here is to choose one path or the other. But for those on the service to others path, there is protection for you, and it's in proportion to your seeking. So make that choice and then dedicate with all your heart the seeking to be of service to others by being who you are on the deepest level possible and radiating that love to others as best you can. Ben, did you have any thoughts on this little passage here?
Not so much, but I do just like how it's again just saying, be aware that there's this energy, this goodness that surrounds those who walk this path of good, and so it kind of is a sense of gives a sense of like a kind of holy faith, even like if you're doing good and seeking good and helping others along the way, then you shall be helped as well. And it kind of makes sense. It's like the law of attraction in a way. You're by me putting the energy out to help others, then without even knowing it, I'm receiving the same type of energy myself. So you give what you get, as my dad would say growing up. You give what you get.
So don't have a fit.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I like the part here in the middle where they're saying there is no outward shelter in your illusion from the
Right.
gusts, flurries, and blizzards of quick and cruel catalyst. Means bad things are going to still happen. It doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen. That would seem to be bad. It just means that in your attitude, the more pure you are in being of service to others, the more that can be seen as a blessing and to be seen as protected by the light. I'm reminded of all our friends and family in Asheville, North Carolina, which is still recovering, trying to recover from that huge, devastating hurricane that blew through recently. And as devastating as that was to that community, and still is for the folks who are still trying to recover, it would seem I have heard so many stories from friends and family in the Law of One community who live in Asheville that in so many ways it was a catalyst for people to pull together and help each other and to be of service to others. And in many ways, for a lot of people, was seen as a blessing, even if it is and continues to be a challenge. Andy, any thoughts, reflections on anything here?
Yeah, I love that that even the service to others path will experience these things, but then the attitude is seeing them as opportunities and challenges offered. And it also reminds me of card number 22 or 0, the Fool, where the guy is stepping off the cliff or into a river with a crocodile in it. And it brings to mind that scene. I don't know if you're familiar with Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where the Black Knight gets his limbs chopped off and he says, "'Tis but a flesh wound."
Thank you. Been waiting to bring Monty Python into our Law of One discussions.
Okay, you're welcome. But yeah, it's sort of the attitude would be to welcome whatever comes and just accept that we are the vehicles for God's love. We are just instruments of the Creator. So, and that can be there's so much love in that, in fully being in that belief.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. Renat, anything to add?
I just want to look at the cat. I've had this weird thing with cats lately. I go on my walks and we have stray cats in the neighborhood. They look like home cats. They're well taken care of, but I know they're stray. They're just this week, coming out of the bushes to greet me. Another one. And it's like, what's going on here? So going back to the catalyst, it's not easy for me to, remind myself, I came back here from England almost 2 years ago, and I didn't know it's going to be such a typhoon of crap. But
Who'd have thought there would be war in the Middle East, huh?
No, I know. This is more than war. This is, the inner war is more worrisome than the external war. When the people in your household are fighting and the neighbors are also trying to kill you, you're pretty much effed. So I knew that, it's going to be a political turmoil. My brother said, oh, it's probably going to be a shitty government. And I remember saying, well, we'll suffer together. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Going back to the catalyst, the idea of the catalyst, as far as I understand it, is to polarize. So if you are service to others, service to self, you become more of that. You hone yourself, your energies. So I just, as Ben said, you get what you give. So if you give love, you get it back. I really, this past week, just all those cats are coming to greet me from the bushes. Another one. It's so like, okay, I guess, overcoming fear and realizing the game and saying, no, I'm just going to to send, when I send the hostages energy, I also send it to the Gazans. I don't care. Nobody's born a terrorist, you know? So we're all humans on this planet, and we chose to come together to this great party. So that's the benefit of using fear to increase love, you know, to cat that, you know, you get it back. I don't know, maybe those cats just are hungry. They don't look hungry, but I just feel like they just come out to say hi, and cats are
They are your
spiritual
guardians.
beings.
They are your protectors.
Yeah, and today, you know, on my walk, this woman stopped her car next to me and she asked me if she can take me to wherever I'm going. I'm like, wow, okay. I don't know her. And she was, you know, and then she parked her car in the next house. Like, no, she just wanted to be of service or kidnap me. I don't know. She didn't look like a murderess. But it's like, I walked away thinking, oh, I don't know. I see all those good things that are kind of banal as signs for me, you know, increasing the whatever the effect, the love that
Great
is
example.
abstract.
Great example of what
So,
they're talking about.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. Quo, I believe, has spoken on the subject of cats more than a few times and said a number of interesting things about the role of cats in our third density existence, going all the way back to Egypt, going all the way back to Atlantis, and in this case, apparently going back to the archetypical mind. Their fates and ours have been intertwined for quite a while. Encourage anyone watching this to look them up in the Conscious Channeling archives. Otherwise, I had a couple passages that I wanted to read through together about fearlessness. On the subject of fearlessness, on July 31st, 2007, Quo said, masses of people all over the globe are awakening to the rightness of love, unconditional and compassionate love. The forces of life are engulfing with their light the darkness that can never deny light. And so darkness is scurrying into corners and attempting to put out the light by creating an atmosphere of fear. Thusly, you are of great service to the planet and to yourself if you cultivate the habit of fearlessness. And on October 13th, 2019, Quo said, we would suggest that the warrior mentality is one which may be defined as fearlessness, the ability to continue in the face of seeming despair, hopelessness, or failure, to give that which is of love and light regardless of the response of an entity about you. Indeed, to receive any response with love and light, for this is the purpose of this illusion, to learn the ways of love. And if you are able, under any circumstance, to respond to any catalyst with love, you have triumphed in warrior-like fashion over those forces of darkness which would wish for this darkness and separation to prevail upon this planet. Thus, you move forward without fear of rejection, without fear of any type of difficulty that may stop your intense desire to seek and to serve the one infinite Creator within all entities that you meet. For if you speak to that one Creator and all entities that you meet in love and in light, at some level the Creator will respond and return your love and light in kind. And then the love and the light of the one infinite Creator will continue to grow more and more within this planetary influence as it moves more and more into the fourth density of love and understanding. Oh, boys, just both such beautiful passages there. And yeah, I'm reminded again of another pop culture reference. The Lord of the Rings, again, reminded of, I think it's the third movie where they're lighting the beacons and Gondor is calling for aid. And so one flame goes up on the mountain that's spotted by watchers on another distant mountain peak who light their flame. And that one's spotted by another. And you just see this chain of beacons being lit in the darkness. And that's what kind of reminds me of this. They're talking about masses of people all over the globe awakening to the rightness of love, unconditional and compassionate love. And when one person learns how to be fearless and to love in the face of fear, it somehow metaphysically causes others to respond similarly, like the lighting of the beacons, or maybe like tuning forks. If you think of two tuning forks that are of some frequency, when one starts vibrating, the other one starts vibrating in sympathy because they're tuned in the same. And I think that's the same here, as those of us here watching or on this panel learn to choose love over fear. Somehow, metaphysically, it encourages others to do likewise. Andy, any thoughts on either of these two passages?
Yeah, I would just say, be the contagion, you know, of love in fear, because I think when one person dares to just go, let's show love in this situation, you know, there's something in the vibration changes, I think, when someone does that, and then, you know, it's like the little spark that lights the fire. That's all.
So I love the metaphor of contagion. I think that's a nice way to take something that we usually think of as negative, but make it something positive. A viral pandemic of love, you could say. Renat, anything to add?
Just thoughts about the word fearless. I don't think any of us can be fearless. Fearless is not the lack of fear, because, you know, it's the first response. But what do we do after? Do we, you know, roll on with the fear and go into fight or flight mode, anger, violence? Or do we overcome, transform, or just hold for a moment? And I think that takes awareness. It's not easy for many of us. It takes awareness, you know, it takes practice. So if we are in situation of, we're in situation of fears all the time, even if in the best conditions, there's fear of real things, imagined things, you know, we project into the future. So just hold, just see it's a big game, and you know, choose your position on the chessboard. Yeah, just that's.
Yeah, I appreciate your pointing out that being fearless might be an impossible thing, and that none of us, I think, are ever completely fearless. But the idea of being able to be afraid, but to confront your fears, and as they're saying, in the face of seeming despair, hopelessness, or failure, to give that which is of love and light, regardless of the response of the entities around you, to choose love over fear. That is what they're saying is pretty much the purpose of this illusion, to learn the lessons of love. Ben, anything to add?
Yeah, I would just add kind of what's already been said. You know, you do have that split second to make a choice of going into the fear response of cower and you know, rage even is a choice, or doing nothing is a choice too. Or you can, when we have a stimulus of like maybe a diagnosis or something that's scary, you have the choice to accept it and then step forward in with the fear and the unknown. It's, you still have to make the right choice and do the next right thing to and when you do that, like we have said, has been said, you show an example of being brave. And even though things are unknown and scary, And if one person can do that, then the next person can see that and find inspiration, because that's how we are as social beings. And then, you know, that's how the contagion spreads, to use that metaphor again, and how the energy spreads. And it's a chain reaction of light. And, you know, again, it's a lot more simple than we realize. And so I would also say there's always hope. You know, despair and hopelessness are illusions. There's always hope and there's always light. And that's something to keep in mind as well. And I think if the greater picture is, even if we die, and it's kind of what is being alluded to here, even if you die in the face of whatever you're facing, do good anyway, be good anyway, because the truth is that no one gets out alive. Everyone is going to meet their end eventually. So just be good, do good, and see the light in all situations, because it's always there. And that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I would only add that's part of the beauty of the law of one, I think, is that it's not the end. It's the recognition that when you die, that's the end of this incarnation.
Right.
But then you still have many, many, many more incarnations to come after this. And there's a little debrief time, apparently, when you look back at what you learned this incarnation and see what's next for you next time. I appreciated you bringing up the health issues. I think that's something that we kind of left out of the discussion. So far, we've been talking about fear in terms of attack or violence from outside us. But yeah, I would imagine there are quite a few people who have experienced the fear of having a diagnosis for a health condition that was not what they were expecting. And that's a whole nother fear, I would think.
Certainly.
We have talked about meditation a couple of times, and I wanted to look at a few passages on the subject of meditation and fear. On December 23rd, 2001, a couple of days before Christmas, a couple of months after the 9/11 attacks, Kuo said, "Silence itself, the tabernacle of the heart, and those infinitely blessed words that have no sound, that still small voice, will bring to you that which you need. We encourage each to seek that silence each day and to affirm that all is well, that all will be well, that the life may be lived in faith. This rest that faith gives again frees one to love. It enables fearlessness. No one within your sphere is truly fearless in all ways, but it is well, gently, but determinately to work on that fear, work on those separating emotions, and realize that all actions expressed lovingly are metaphysically correct." There was another passage from February 2nd, 1997. I believe this is a somewhat longer passage. See if you can stay with me through this one. Here, Kuo said, "To all those who feel the suffering and the difficult circumstances, we would ask that each take a time during the daily round of activities each day and sit in meditation, releasing all the fears, the doubts, the worries of the day, letting these fall aside for this moment, and within this moment, seek the presence of the one infinite Creator. Rest therein for as long as one is able, and feel the unity once again with all that is. Feel the center once again to the self. Feel the feet upon firm metaphysical ground. Feel again the hand of the one Creator moving within the life pattern. Feel the love and light of this one Creator coursing through one's being. Feel those special touches of heart to heart that are available in these times of seeking the one. Rest in this nourishing flow of experience, and when it feels appropriate, move once again into your third density illusion. Feel the quiet and peace of the meditative state moving with you, and ever available as a resource within as one moves in this daily round of activities that brings the challenges, the catalyst, the opportunity to use that which one knows in the heart, the opportunities to love where it does not seem that love would go, to bring light to those who move in darkness, to become as a beacon, one who gives the love and light of the one Creator to all those about one. In such situations, many are the doubts, the shadows, and fears that will fall by the wayside as one continues to seek the inspiration of the one Creator in daily meditation. We would remind each that all that lies before you, you have placed there for a purpose, that is, of service to others' orientation. There is light in each doubtful situation. There is love in each fear-filled heart that can erase the fear and remove the doubt. It is not an easy journey, nor would you wish it so, for there is much to be gained by bringing love and light where there is darkness and doubt. We wish each seeker a good journey through this illusion, for there are many side roads that can distract, confuse, and fill one with fear. But there is always love and light from the one Creator available to each within one's own heart. Never could it be closer. There seek to find the nourishment that will carry each of you that await on your journey of the seeking of the one Creator. Beautiful passages, and as anyone familiar with the Law of One knows, they recommend meditation like all the time, pretty much in every channeling session, and there have been 1,700 plus of them. At some point, they probably recommend that people do meditation as a spiritual practice. And here, I think they really do a good job of explaining how, in some sense, it means going into the heart. That's where they're saying you can find the Creator. That's where you can find yourself surrounded and enveloped in love to ease those fears. I think that is a beautiful practice that I have found myself to be true many times, and still learning it, still growing in it, but definitely something can recommend to others. Renat, any thoughts on anything here? Or on your own meditation practice?
I just wanted to point out that there has been much research to prove that meditation improves the health of the both body and mind, heart, feelings, emotional state. I know people that have overcome the big C using meditation, looking into the core reason of, you know, why they developed that, what the body is trying to tell them, instead of suppressing the just, you know, taking medication or surgery. Not, they didn't overrule that, but also they wanted to look at the cause and heal that core reason. And people have been saved from, you know, suffering and possible death. Not all, but so meditation has been proven. I think Harvard University years ago has done an extensive research on, you know, scanning the brains of people who have been meditating for a while and seeing the results. And, you know, so it, you know, it's, if for no other reason than, you know, for your own health, it's a recommended. And it's not easy to meditate. We all have to find our way into it. There is the, you know, silencing of the mind, quieting of the mind. There are a lot of guided meditations. We can start with 1 minute a day. That's great. 30 seconds and grow from there. That's what I did. So it's, you know, it's a great medicine.
Well said. Yeah, we had an episode on meditation a while ago for folks who are new to it, looking for some suggestions, different types of meditations, and finding one that might work for them. It's on our YouTube channel. Go ahead and find it. Ben, anything to add?
Yeah. So I think that's, for me, meditation is it's kind of a moment of taking a step back from everything, because like we've already read and discussed, there's no escape from Catalyst in this density. You know, you can live a life of a hermit and you're still going to have a mouse in your cabin or something. So the Catalyst is always there. And so I think part of what meditation is it's kind of like a tool to, I'm going to get really nerdy here, but I'm going to look at it like a computer. When you defragment the hard drive, and it runs more smoothly when it organizes everything and puts the little bits in the right position on the hard drive. And that, I feel like that's kind of what meditation is a little bit in the spiritual sense, is we're taking all the little bits of Catalyst that we see and we take in with our mind and try to think our way through. But sometimes this is your worst enemy. You You have to feel it down here. And so it's the mind and the heart kind of reorganizing and calibrating everything. And so I think for me, that's what meditation does. And also in the silence and stillness of meditation, when I'm just trying to not think and exist in the space of thoughtlessness, that is when I feel this greater community of like communing itself with all that is, with the one, with the one infinite creator. That when you can stop the mind, for me, when I can stop the mind and the chatter, you feel this presence and peace that all, and it's a knowing, it's an inner knowing that all is well. And I think when you go back into when I go back into my life, into the third density, and sitting in traffic again, I can still always reconnect with that all is well, all is wellness that's always there, always present. And that's how I navigate through this density. And that's one of my tools. And meditation is such a key thing to it. And I'm not as disciplined as I would like to be, but when I am meditating, and usually it's when things are really chaotic, is when I make the space to meditate. It's such a great thing. So love meditation.
What a beautiful way to look at it. And I would hope that would be encouraging to anyone watching this who, like me, took a long time to get around to it. I was not into meditating, could not really accept the idea of just sitting in silence for more than like a minute or so. But yeah, started doing it a few years ago, and I still don't necessarily do the silent meditation. More often than not, I'll play a recording of Om chanting.
Yeah.
I like to do the Om chanting. For me, that's my way of doing the refragmenting, or whatever you said was the computer analogy, which I think was a great analogy. But just vibrating in vibration with the Om syllable for me works really well in a similar way. But everyone is unique, for sure. Andy, any thoughts on this or on your own meditation practice?
Yeah, I would say that you can meditate. Meditation isn't just about sitting for however long in silence, cross-legged or whatever position. You can do meditation when you're out jogging. You can do meditative laundry, meditative dishes. It's just about being in the moment. But having said that, the time that you allocate to sit in silence, it's like going to the gym for your body. That time that you set aside to meditate is exercise for your meditative mind, and exercise in training in mindfulness. And the reason I do that is so that I can get into the meditative state throughout the day. And the more I've done that, the more I've found that actually that's just the natural state I get in anyway. You can be meditative whilst arguing with someone, I find sometimes, if you're just in that moment and watching yourself, moving your mouth, making these noises, watching the emotions, in a way you could be having a conversation with someone and still be meditating. But that comes with training and setting aside the time to kind of going to the gym for mindfulness, I suppose, the mindfulness gym. Yeah.
Well said. I really, really appreciate your reminding our viewers and the rest of us that anything can be meditative, any of those things that you mentioned. Every soul is unique, as our friends in the Confederation have said. Every spiritual journey is unique. And there is, as they have said many times, there is no one correct way of meditating or one best way of meditating. It's for each person to find that way of communing with the Creator. I think that is wonderful. You did talk about being in the present moment, and I did want to look at a couple passages about that, since it relates to meditation very much. On January 10th, 1993, Kuo said, "The more compassionate way to deal with this existential fear is to realize and affirm the wonder and blessing of each present moment. If disaster or catastrophe is to be part of an entity's destiny, it shall occur, regardless of planning attempts to protect the self from such a fate. If all is to be peaceful concerning the seeker's last day in this illusion, so shall it be, although the seeker stands within 100 which are slain. The attitude of gazing with a full and loving heart at whatever is occurring is the more compassionate and loving approach to the quandary of existence without answers. Appreciate and attempt to inhabit fully each moment, each minute and hour of each day of this experience, one at a time, and whatever the outer circumstances, the inner spiritual journey shall be as full of light and blessing as the experiencer can hold. There is another passage I wanted to read through. This also, I believe, is a somewhat lengthy passage. I apologize for it, but it seems like everything here could be really helpful, so wanted to do this. This is from November 28th, 2004, and quote here said, "The coin itself, with love on one side and fear on the other, is you yourself and what you think is important. You are the treasure here. You are the coin of the realm, shall we say. You are a thing of infinite value, and when you have a concern, if you reach with hope and trust and faith, you are reaching into the qualities of love. If instead you approach your issue by contracting into worry and projection, then your choice is fear. Shall you expand around an issue or shall you contract around an issue? That is your choice. Note that the energies of expansion are locked into the present moment. They do not drift into projections of the future or memories of the past. In the world of love, one begins with the knowledge that all is well, and this pulls one into focus in the center of the present moment. In truth, as we said earlier, it almost seems negligent or criminal within the society in which you find yourself to approach issues from a standpoint of love. It does not seem to be prudent or sensible to stay in the present moment, and yet anything but the present moment is an illusion of mind. All that is truly yours to do with, to exert control over, or to make choices within, is this present moment. So if you take that image of the self in the present moment as the coin and look to see what the heads and tails of that coin are, archetypically speaking, it is very clear and shining in its simplicity. On one side is love, on the other side is fear. On the one side is expansion into infinite present with infinite possibilities. On the other side is contraction into a knot, and the determination that stems from that contraction to control, to be aggressive, and to make things safe. And this involves one in endless projections into the future and endless projections into the past in order to justify the projections into the future. When one visits in a hospital, one may be well able to sense the presence of a kind of dark energy that seems somehow to be part of the atmosphere of this place of supposed healing. This is because there are unseen entities from your inner planes that are negative in nature and that feed upon fear and pain. In any place where there is suffering, where these entities will cluster and eat that energy that is coming off of the people that are suffering. When you yourself enter into the contraction around fear concerning an issue, you are yourself producing food that is very tasty for these unseen entities. And if your habit solidifies and deepens so that you are constantly running fear-based thoughts and dwelling in the lands of worry and projection into an unsightly and worrisome future, you are solidifying a habit that will increasingly limit your ability to relax and enjoy the present moment. To move away from these habits of contraction is to move from shadow into sunlight. We do not say that this journey from shadow to sunlight is going to be an easy one. It flies in the face of your cultural training to rely on trust and faith. There are many, many times each day when you have the opportunity to move into worry. We can only encourage you to do as the one known as T2 said, to remain somewhat centered and focused, more so than your everyday state, to be somewhat in a meditative state as you move through the moments of your day. For it is just in these tiny moments that the opportunities to make the choice between love and fear appear. The challenge is to be aware when those moments arrive so that you can stop yourself from being triggered into fear and the contraction around fear. So much to unpack from here. Appreciate everyone who was able to follow through all of that. I love the image of the coin, that one side is love and one side is fear, and that every moment you have a choice of how to respond, either by expanding with love or contracting with fear, and that the choice is yours. And this is definitely something I can relate to. I constantly find myself drifting into thoughts of worst case scenarios for the future. And I always have to remind myself that the future, those are all things that I'm constructing in my mind and probably are never going to happen, and come back to the present moment and remember that there is love in every moment. Every encounter with every other self is a really beautiful spiritual practice, I think. Ben, any thoughts on anything from here?
Yes, lots. So one thing that I wrote down first was the first passage talked about go through experience of life in the present moments with eyes of compassion, eyes of empathy, and if you can have that kind of sense, you're immediately taken out of your own selfishness and self-servingness, and so it's a real easy choice to just if you see someone suffering or someone enduring something, instead of try to put yourself in their shoes for a second, and that instantly creates empathy and compassion. And I don't know if it's something that more like awakened people are more apt to do or not, but we are awake, and if you're watching this right now, you're aware of the bigger game as well. So make that decision. And in a way, it's kind of lazy to live in your own selfish little world and be unconscious and just worry about things I got to get done today, and not worry about the homeless people that were out there, or asking for a couple coins, or it's like Ra always says, the opportunity for catalyst and growth is always there all the time. It's just a matter of our own perseverance and our own awareness of the greater picture. And I had another thought about the second half of the reading, but it's eluding me right now. So I'm gonna
We'll
stop.
come back to you. There's a lot. There was something I wanted to add to, but I'll wait till later. Thanks for sharing that.
I'm gonna run to the restroom too, but I'll be right back.
Thank you. We'll edit that part out. Yeah. Andy, anything to add? And we don't edit anything out here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I think this is why I see meditation, the sitting down in silence kind, as practice, so that we are in a mental state to realize that every moment is a choice. And I like to see that, Ra says there is no time, it's just an illusion. And what we're doing is like snatching, I'd like to think of it as snatching pages and assembling them into a book, and creating a story out of that. And love is about moving forward and being aware that we're in charge of letting the story unfold, whereas fear is holding on to the story that we knew in the past and clinging on to that and projecting that old story into the future. So every moment is a choice. Do you want to pull a new page, or do you want to copy an old page and put that into the moment and push it forward? Are we going to let the story unfold or repeat the same story from previously?
Beautiful. Yeah, what a great metaphor. What a great visual for that. Never would have thought of that. Renat, anything to add?
Yeah, the thought I had relates, actually it was part of what you said, Jonathan, but it relates very much to what Andy said, is the idea it's not an idea. I want to present it as a fact. We create our own reality. So if our thoughts is energy, and energy is a real thing, which, let's pretend we all believe in that, but I believe in that. Energy is a real thing. Thoughts are a real thing. The sixth sense, scent is a real thing. So if we accept that the sixth sense is the real reality, that the five senses are part of the illusion, then we create our reality with our thoughts, not only with our actions. So if we project a horrible future, we already kind of gave way. We put a few building blocks into that horrible scenario. And the opposite is correct. I mean, literally, war did not create itself. People thought about it. The same people executed, or most likely they got other people to execute it and get hurt. So, it was a thought, maybe not originating in this realm, but, so yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to imagine that our planet is not injured, that people are not hurt. It's really hard. But if we can just, for a moment, take a breath and imagine this wonderful place that we want to live in, then we are putting, a few coins into that bank of wealth that is the future. So yeah, let's create a new story.
Well said. Well said. I wanted to go back to something that was in the first passage. They said in blue, if disaster or catastrophe is to be part of an entity's destiny, it shall occur regardless of planning attempts to protect the self from such a fate. If all is to be peaceful concerning a seeker's last day in this illusion, so shall it be, although the speaker stands within 100 which are slain. It reminds me of something I think we were saying not too long ago about reincarnation, and how this is not the end when one dies at the end of this incarnation. Those who are familiar with the law of one will know that, and those who are familiar with the works of Michael Newton, the hypnotherapist who was able to get many individuals to remember experiences that they had in between incarnations, where apparently it would appear, and it has been said many times in the Law of One, in the channeling transcripts, that everything that each of us experiences in this incarnation has been planned pre-incarnatively, they would say, planned along with our higher self, in order to learn all the things that we need to learn, so that, as they're saying here, if some disaster or catastrophe happens, whether it was somebody living in Asheville going through what's happening with them, or whatever might happen with Renat, where she is in Israel, or whatever, some sort of disease one might have that Ben alluded to, or not, is, for better or worse, something that was pre-planned, which to me, I think is kind of liberating. It means I don't really have to be afraid of all this stuff, because however I'm fucking gonna die, apparently it was planned already in advance. And in a way, I do find that liberating, that I don't have to worry about some random freak accident happening or something terrible. At least I can rest assured that it's okay. However it is, all will be well, all is well, and that it was meant for me to learn whatever it is I had to learn. And again, for folks who don't believe in that particular cosmology, then I guess you can just kind of like ignore that. But again, if you bear in mind that everything that we're reading here came through this process of channeling, and that if you had asked any of the persons who were channeling these questions, they wouldn't be able to come up with this. Nobody who's a channel like talks like this in their waking life, and nobody I know of or has ever known of has ever spoken like this before. They're beautiful spiritual teachings, and if you're able to accept what they're saying, then yeah, I would think that is good in helping one overcome one's fears, perhaps. Ben, I know you said you had something else that you wanted to share. Do you remember what that was?
Not quite, but one thing I kind of was something that my mind's kind of focusing on is the idea of these uh parasitic like inner planes beings that like to feast on our negative emotional energy. Like that's something that it's a little bit of the woo if you think about it, but but if you look at it, if you think about it in a more practical way, it's a sense of like how this energy kind of feeds on itself, and people in a state of like heightened panic and like crisis when they have that high vibrational energy, it's not high vibration, but it feels high vibrational, that it pulls everyone down to that state of panic and anxiety, and so I think that's kind of what it's using language to say that kind of energy in another way. It creates this like frantic state, and it wants to pull you out of your own centeredness into that state of panic and fear. But the truth is that it's always a choice. And oh yeah, I did remember. So the thing that I wanted to mention was I just got back from a trip to the Midwest. I was visiting with my parents, and my parents are great people. You know, they're baby boomers, and they love to watch their six o'clock news every day. And every day the 6 o'clock news starts off with it's always like some freaky story about like a pregnant woman was, stuck in a fire and couldn't get out of her house. And so, and then the next thing is about a murder that's still unsolved in like, their city. And so you have to be careful what media you take in, because the media itself likes to pull us down into that state of panic and crisis, when the truth is that the sun is shining, the birds are singing, and life's still going on. And yes, there is crisis and there's catalysts constantly happening around this world, but it's only as it's only as bad as you want to make it out to be. So carry the light and bring the light and stay grounded, and don't fall into the trappings of panic that are always available if you want, especially on the 6 o'clock news. So, and I'm not saying put your head in a hole either. You have to be aware, but also be aware of what you're taking into and the state of your energy and how it responds to things like that on the television.
Well said. I appreciate your bringing that up, which is pretty much why so many people refuse to watch the news. Yeah. And I think it would be fair to say that handful of extremely wealthy individuals who do basically control all of our mass media are service to self entities. And yes, they have curated the news specifically for the purpose of keeping us in a perpetual state of fear. It works well for the service to self agenda. And as has been pointed out, it is food for those higher density negative entities, those vibrations. Everything is vibration. And those really base vibrations of fear and anxiety and bellicosity, they're food for them, and they love that. So it's a choice whether or not to feed them. We have been going a little bit over 2 hours, I believe, and we've still actually got a couple more passages to go through. Okay, if we move on. I did want to look at how choosing love over fear relates to the choosing of the path of service to others, also known as STO, or service to self, also known as STS. On August 11th, 2009, Quo said, "It is indeed so that the workings of service to self polarized entities depend heavily on fear, for fear and love cannot coexist. Either one or the other shall engage your attention. Answering the latter part of your query first, we would assure you that the time of the dragon is short. There are always hopes of repetition of those who would rule by empire and enslave others for the use of the self. Yet you have seen empires rise and fall in all of your recorded history, and even within the memory of those within the circle, there had been the sound of falling idols as one dictator or another is brought to dust, or at least into retirement from his evil. Tyranny has not won, nor can it win, the mind and heart of mankind. What it can do and what it enjoys doing is ruling nations and creating within those nations climates of fear, as you noted in your query. What does this fear do to the spiritual seeker? On the physical level, those who rebel against dictators and tyrants can die or be made very uncomfortable. They can be put in jail. They can be tortured. Their hearts cannot be changed, nor can their minds. And in general, the real day-to-day activities of humankind move below the radar of those governmental tyrants. Consequently, we would suggest that it is entirely up to an entity as to whether or not he stays abreast of the news of the day. Some entities do not have a great curiosity about it, and it certainly is not needful for a spiritually healthy and fulfilling life. There are many, however, whose personalities are such that they do wish to stay abreast of what is happening, and we find that there is no harm whatsoever in learning all that you wish to learn about the affairs of the day, as long as you remember that you are not here to judge, but to love that which you see. All that you see is love in some distortion or another, and you are here to reflect love back into that which you see. Therefore, gaze deeply within as you see the news of the day, asking for insight as to the patterns of service to self and service to others, so that you may see beyond the details into the grand patterns that are moving energetically within the global web of energy that is the earth. And as you come into realizations concerning how the two polarities work and how they complement each other, open your heart to love what you see, to send love into the situations that disturb you, to rejoice with those things that you see that speak to the primacy and the victory of love, for that you shall see beyond all of these implements of fear that so abound in your outer world. Such a beautiful passage, and certainly relates to what we were talking about a couple minutes ago about the news. And I love the encouragement that I get from this. I think I have found, as I have been dealing with negativity in the news and the political arena and all that stuff, it has helped me a lot to kind of pull back and look at the earth from a distance and to be able to see everything that's happening as really just this interplay between positive and negative energies, the so-called service to others and service to self polarities. And remembering that I'm not here to judge, but to love everything we see is really part of the mission that everyone who's watching this has been given, and that rejoicing in how these energies actually complement each other, and that the creator is on both sides, and that whoever wins this little contest, the creator still wins either way. I think has helped me a lot to detach from the fear and resentment that I might have for the process otherwise. Trust the process. It's a good process, and it's a beautiful process. Has helped me a lot. Andy, any thoughts, reflections on anything here?
I would just say when one is fearful, whether that fear comes out as worry or anger or whatever form it takes, it's very difficult to be service to others. When we're angry, it's hard to look at the other and think, how can I be of service to the other? And I think the only way to do that is to go into the silence, regroup, and recognize ourselves as vehicles or instruments of the creator, and and channel the creator's energy in order that we may be able to then be of service to the other self that needs us. But if we remain in our fear, in our rage and our worry, it's nearly impossible to do that.
Well said. Good observation. Renat, anything to add?
Yeah. Hello, viewers who are still awake.
I don't think there's anybody watching at this point.
Yeah, I'm getting tired. It's my bedtime soon. Yeah, I just highlighted. Just wanted to build on the sentence that's highlighted. And elsewhere, it is said that we are not here to fix anything. We are here to love and to be. And the more we embody love, that is, I see it as part of the fixing, but it's not hands-on fixing. It's indirect fixing, I guess, healing, recovery. So we're not here to judge or to, we can't fix the broken things. But if a mass of us is embodying love for, a duration, then this, it tips the balance towards away from war.
Indeed. That's what we're hoping for. Ben, anything to add?
Yes, I have lots to add, but um, you know, it's a lot simpler than we make it out to be, and so it's always important to live with eyes of love, eyes of compassion. I love I always like Ross says ask yourself where's the love in this situation, in this strife, and it's hard to see it, especially the US just got through this crazy election cycle, and now both sides were so fierce on what they believe, and you can see the interplay of deception and of compassion and faith and charity, and how it's all interplaying, and also people's own views on what those things mean. And so you can watch you can see it. You can see the selfishness, you can see the service to self energy and the service to other energy interacting with each other. And in that, I
And
think
each side believe it's the other side that is that way.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's that divisiveness too. So there's, even though both sides have this passion, there's still this divide that is not true, because there's two separated entities here, and it's all the same entity, just playing with these different philosophies. And in that is, in the chaos and excitement of this energy that's happening, and energy being exchanged, there's plenty of opportunity and adventure and fun stuff too that's going on. So you kind of have to take a step back and kind of realize that it's all kind of a game, and it's all kind of a divine comedy, and there's certainly tragedy mixed in with it as well if you search for it. But have the eyes of compassion. I think that's kind of what Ra is saying a little bit here, and realize that the interplay and even the path of service to self has to exist in order for the path of service to other to exist as well. Because, and then in that, there's opportunity for growth and opportunity to explore how love works, and how these energies interact, and how we get by in this third density. So it's really kind of cool if you think about it. But
It is.
yeah, that's what we're here for, to explore the interworkings of love. So I'm always happy to talk about it and think about it.
It is. It is. And it always appears easier and better from the other side of the veil. But within the illusion, within the incarnation behind the veil, it seems like crazy. But I appreciate your reminders of being able to see through, see the love in every moment, and seeing the humor in every moment. Both great ways, I think, to dispel fear. I have one last passage that I wanted to read through together, and this is about fourth density. On November 28th, 2004, Quo said, "There is a true hope among your peoples that is growing daily for the energies of love and trust and peace to come swelling up like buds opening into flowers in spring. When each of you chooses love over fear, you start something happening in the unseen worlds. You create an energy that is compatible with fourth density. Each time you choose to trust, to love, to have forbearance and compassion, to see the other person's point of view and truly walk in their shoes instead of your own, you are expanding the kingdom of fourth density right where you are. And the more people that begin consciously to do this, the faster this kingdom will expand. We say to you plainly, fourth density is all but complete. As you walk around about in third density. The fourth density energy is stronger every day upon your planet. The Earth itself is vibrating largely in fourth density now. That is why so many entities are sensing the need to become closer in contact to the Earth itself, touching the ground, working with the Earth, working with plants and animals, and those things that abide in the creation of the Father and have nothing to do with the world of the mind of man. This was in 2004. This was about 20 years ago. And I believe they have said more than a few times in channelings since then that the Earth is fully vibrating in fourth density positive. It's just humanity that's kind of lagging behind, because we have this tug of war between the majority of people who are polarized more towards service to others, and those who are trying consciously to graduate on the service to self path. So there is this kind of continual tug of war that is making it difficult for humanity as a whole to choose one or the other, or choose to graduate to service to others and move up to fourth density as a collective. But I really like the message of encouragement here that all of us here, everyone who's watching this right now, chose to be here specifically in order to do what we're doing to help the Earth and help humanity make that transition. And that each time that we choose love over fear, each time that we choose to trust, to love, to have forbearance and compassion, to see the other person's point of view, truly walk in their shoes instead of their own, expanding the kingdom of fourth density right where we are. That's a really beautiful message, I would think, to carry us into the future. Renat, anything to share on this? Anything to add?
Yeah, it's probably you should do a whole episode about the fourth density. I'm thinking it's
Oh, we will.
it's a big issue. And again, we create our own reality. So if we truly believe or just blindly trust, hope that the Earth is already in fourth density, which is the density of love, then we can just maybe kind of Photoshop out the war and the craziness, just like, because it's all illusion, right? So we can choose which part of the illusion we want to hold on to, but the fourth density is not an illusion, I don't think. So, hey, I'll take that.
I think they're all illusions. If I remember correctly, you just move from one type of illusion into another one. And they said that the mystery recedes. The closer they approach it, the more it recedes into the distance, I believe. Ben, do you have any thoughts, reflections to add to anything here?
Yeah, I think that the world is far better than they tell us, and far better than we even believe ourselves. I think that is what this fourth density energy is. It's a world where everything is in surplus. There's plenty of food for everything. There's plenty of abundance for everything. There's plenty of opportunity for everything, and people aren't chained down to lives where we're stuck, chained to our bills and chained to our mortgages and chained to having to make money to survive. No, that's not the fourth density world. It's a world of abundance and a world of compassion, a world of peace, and love for the earth and love for nature and love for our fellow humans on this planet, because we're all down here together. And the truth is that we're supposed to be custodians of this planet. We're supposed to treasure it and honor it and honor all who are here, because no one is better than anyone else, including the animals. And so that's the fourth density energy that I try to carry in my life, and that's why I think I'm down here, and why I chose to come back. So yeah, so live in light, walk in abundance, and see the good, because it's always there.
Well said indeed, and we're glad that you came back for it. Andy, anything to add?
Yeah, I'm so not there yet. Like,
I know.
I think I am, and then I see the bit about see the other person's point of view and walk in their shoes instead of your own, and I wish I could do that. But some people are just, assholes, you know. And when I say assholes, that's like me being polite. There's much worse words I could use. And I'm just like, right, I've got to see the creator in all, and this the creator manifesting as a fucking asshole? And it's such a challenge for me right now. And I really, it's something I'm still working on. So yeah.
You're doing great though. If you can
Thank
see
you.
that other asshole as creator, like masquerading as an asshole, that's what creator looks like when they're an asshole. That's pretty good. And I'm sure all the people that I think are assholes think I'm also the same. So there you go.
Yeah, but why would the creator want to do that? Like, yeah,
Creator's an
anyway.
asshole, I guess. A divine asshole. Yeah. Yeah, so many passages I've read where they have said in so many different ways that everything that we experience, everything is creator, and the creator just wants to know more. The creator is infinite intelligence, and when you're infinitely intelligent, you always want to learn more. So that means exploring all the limits of the light, all the limits of the dark, in order to integrate them all to become as complete as whole. So I don't know. That's the story I keep telling myself as we go through this. If it's okay with you all, I would love to go ahead and wrap things up here. This would be the part of the episode where we look at where do we go from here? What are some possible takeaway lessons from the 2.5 hour discussion that we've had so far? So, a couple takeaways. Remember that fear contracts the heart and love expands it. Pay attention to when you feel fear and see if you can transform it to love. Open the heart to expand that, to allow that free flow of energy or prana or chi or whatever you call it through all of your energy centers. Remember that you do have protection. It is wired into this reality in the archetypical mind, and it is directly proportionate to the degree to which you polarize in purity towards service to others. Be in the present moment. Find a way to meditate, get into that open heart, be one with the creator, be one with that universal love, and fear and love cannot coexist. And lastly, just remember that all is love. Love is all. Everything that you see, everything that you experience is love. It goes back to that original statement we said at the beginning of the episode. That is basically what the law of one says, that all is one, and that one thing is love. Love is all that matters. Everything you see is some distorted form of love, maybe more distorted than others, but it is all love. That's been a difficult thing for me to accept, but the more I've been able to accept it now, the more I'm at peace and less afraid of things that are happening or will happen. Panelists, anything to add to this? Any takeaway of lessons of your own you'd like to add before we wrap things up with a little pop quiz? Ben, anything?
No, I just say be the love, walk in the light, spread the truth, speak the truth, and have eyes of compassion, and you'll be okay because you are protected, and so am I.
Nice. Andy?
No, just thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to explore this and to be a part of it.
Nice.
Thank you, all of you.
Renat?
Whoever is still listening, Jonathan is going to send you some special prize by mail. Just send him that.
Total
Let's see if you get
consciousness.
any. Let's see if you get anyone.
Well, people do skip ahead by chapters, so I don't know if
Okay.
anybody's watching this whole
No.
thing all the way through, but yeah, we'll skip around. Some people skip to the pop quiz. Yeah. So So, did want to thank all our panelists for being here. And yes, as you know, it is a tradition around here. We have a little pop quiz at the end of our sessions, just to add a little bit of light and laughter and levity to our otherwise serious conversations. So, since today our theme was love over fear, it seems only fitting that we should have a pop quiz on the pop culture phenomenon known as horror movies. Apparently, a lot of people love to feel fear. Panelists, any of you guys fans of the scary movie genre?
Not so much.
I see Andy nodding yes. Andy, you're a fan of horror movies? I'm not. We're not. And did not seem-
Yeah, I used to be until I had my children, and then now I like the ones that kind of have comedy in them as well. So
Oh, nice. Yeah, they've gotten good at that. I'm not a fan, but I did learn some interesting things about them in the process of writing this pop quiz, so maybe you and our viewers will as well. Panelists, I am going to ask you 3 multiple choice questions about some of the most popular horror movies of all time in the United States. See how many you can guess correctly. As always, the points don't matter. If you had fun, you won. If you learned something interesting about pop culture you can share with friends or family later on, you won. Are you ready for your first question?
Yes.
First question, which of the following is the highest grossing horror movie of all time? Is it A, It, B, The Exorcist, or C, The Sixth Sense?
is this adjusted for inflation?
Yeah,
Or is it just the number?
I think adjusted for inflation. Yeah, which of these 3 movies has made the most money?
I think The Exorcist.
I'll say The Exorcist as well.
Me too, since it's the only one from this list that I actually saw. I realized in my teens I saw some horror movies before I realized, no, life is horrific enough, thank you. So I did this. I had nightmares.
That's a good one. The scary one.
I've seen The Exorcist. I've seen The Sixth Sense. I would have guessed The Exorcist too, but the correct answer is in fact It.
Oh.
Based on Stephen King's book about a group of bullied kids who were banding together to destroy a shape-shifting monster that disguises itself as a clown, apparently. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Have you seen that one, Andy?
No, I haven't.
You will now.
Exorcist is number 6 on the list, and The Sixth Sense was actually number 2. But it apparently has made more money than all of them. Go
I
figure.
wouldn't classify The Sixth Sense as a horror film, though, really. I mean, it's spooky, but I don't know.
Don't know either. Second question. Which popular horror film was inspired by real events that took place in Gainesville, Florida in the early 90s? Was it A, Scream, B, the Amityville Horror, or C, the Blair Witch Project?
B. I had that name in my head before you even
Which one?
said the options. The Amityville Horror, I think. Because
Go ahead, sorry.
Because I was so fascinated by it, I started researching it after watching it.
Nice.
Oh, she
cheating,
gave,
are you?
Sorry.
She gave the answer.
Well, I don't know. Oh, sorry.
I'll go for C just for the variety.
And I'll go for C.
Nice. Ben?
I think it's A actually, but I'm not
Ooh.
positive.
Any reason for A?
Well, I'm familiar with the Amityville Horror and Blair Witch Project, so I'm just doing process of elimination by my own knowledge.
Oh, nice. The correct answer is, in fact, A. Scream. Yeah, the guy who wrote the screenplay for Scream was apparently inspired by TV reports of the Gainesville Ripper, a serial killer who, in August 1990, murdered 5 random college students in Gainesville, Florida, by prying open sliding glass doors. So I believe that's somewhat similar to the gist of the movie. A lot of young people being terrorized by this guy wearing the ghost face mask. But apparently the students at the University of Florida started changing their daily routines, sleeping together in groups, and many of them transferred to other schools because of that. The Amityville Horror is based on true story, but I think that actually happened before the 90s. Apparently there was some murders that happened in a house in Amityville, New York. And there were apparently some unpleasant paranormal activities that followed. The Blair Witch Project, on the other hand, I believe is entirely made up story made to appear real by the directors. Are you ready for your last question? Last question. Which horror movie features a serial killer wearing a William Shatner or Captain Kirk mask for the Star Trek fans out there? Is it A, Saw, B, Halloween, or C, Friday the 13th, or D, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier? Which was, by all accounts, the most horrific, worst of the Star Trek movies. Directed by William Shatner.
Did you add D yourself?
I did.
So it's not D. Let's.
I'm not saying anything more than what I've just said already.
I think A.
What do you take, Ben? I'll take the other one.
Oh, now you're working together as a team. Nice.
The answer is B, Halloween.
I'll take C. And the winner is
Nice.
D.
Mr. Ben Leaf is correct again. The correct answer is Halloween.
Oh.
Did you know that, Ben, or was that just a guess?
I did know that. Yes, I did know that. In high school, I had friends who were really into horror movies, and so they talked about Halloween all the time. So yeah, it's a Shatner mask that he's wearing.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently the guy who was production designer for the movie was trying to find a creepy mask for the killer, Michael Myers. So he visited a magic shop on Hollywood Boulevard, and up on the shelf, there were a whole bunch of masks of real people. And down on the end, there was a Mr. Spock mask, and right next to it was a Captain Kirk mask. So he took the mask and enlarged the eye holes, removed the eyebrows and the sideburns, painted it white, darkened the hair, and the rest, as they say in his history. Well done, panelists. You might have done the best of all of our panels here on the pop quizzes. So do you want to say thank you to our panelists for being here today, for all you've done, for all you continue to do in service to others, to all our friends at L&L Research, thank you for all you've done, continue to do in service to others, to whoever is watching this right now in the near or distant future, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. We are sending you our love light, and we are receiving yours as well. Until next time, in the love and light of the one infinite creator, Adonai, namaste. Love you all.